Get him! Grab him! Come on with it!
First, let's take a deep look at what kind of story 6666 is truly going to tell, because unlike the other Yellowstone spin-offs, this one feels far more grounded, far more real, and honestly much more personal. From everything we know so far, the tone of 6666 will be very different compared to the intense family politics of Yellowstone or the historical struggles we saw in the prequels. This series is expected to focus heavily on the day-to-day life at the Four Sixes Ranch, one of the most legendary and respected ranches in the entire country. And what makes this even more exciting is the fact that this is not just fiction. This ranch exists in real life, and it represents a true legacy of hard work, discipline, and tradition. Because of this, the trailer hints suggest that the series will dive deep into the authentic world of ranching. We are not just talking about dramatic conflicts or power struggles, but real challenges. Raising horses, breeding champions, training them, and preparing them for competition and sale. And honestly, this might be one of the most refreshing things about 6666, because it gives us a chance to experience a lifestyle that feels raw, natural, and completely untouched by modern artificiality. Just like we saw glimpses of in Yellowstone, but this time much more detailed and much more immersive. At the same time, this does not mean the series will lack drama or tension. In fact, it might be the opposite. Because when you are dealing with a place that holds such a strong reputation, the pressure to maintain that legacy becomes incredibly intense. Every decision matters. Every mistake has consequences. And every person working on the ranch has to prove themselves every single day. This creates a natural kind of tension that feels more realistic, but also more powerful, because it is rooted in responsibility, rather than just conflict. Another important detail that the trailer seems to highlight is the sense of pride and passion connected to the Four Sixes Ranch. This is not just a workplace, it is a way of life. The people here do not just work for money, they work because they believe in what they are doing. And I think this is exactly what will make the series stand out. We will not just watch characters. We will feel like we are living alongside them, experiencing their struggles, their victories, and their personal journeys. And honestly, this is where the real strength of 6666 comes in. It is not trying to be bigger or louder than Yellowstone. Instead, it is trying to be deeper, more authentic, and more meaningful. It is about showing us a world where hard work still matters, where respect is earned, and where legacy is everything. And if the trailer hints are anything to go by, this series is going to deliver that feeling in the most powerful way possible. But of course, a story like this cannot exist without strong characters leading it. And this is where things start to get even more exciting, because the cast that is being revealed might completely surprise you. Now let's talk about the cast, because this is where things start to get really interesting and honestly a bit surprising as well. From everything that has been revealed so far, 6666 is not just relying on familiar faces from Yellowstone, but it is also bringing in new characters who could completely reshape the story. And of course, we have to start with the one character everyone is expecting to see, Jimmy. After everything we watched in Yellowstone, Jimmy's journey feels like it was always leading to this moment. He started as someone inexperienced, someone who struggled to even survive in the harsh world of ranching. But step by step he changed. He learned, he failed, he grew, and eventually he became someone who truly belongs in that life. And now, at the Four Sixes Ranch, this is where his story can fully evolve. The trailer hints suggest that Jimmy is no longer just learning. He is becoming someone others might start to rely on. And honestly, seeing that transformation reach its peak is something many fans have been waiting for. But Jimmy is not alone in this story. Emily is expected to play a very important role as well, and her presence adds a completely different emotional layer to the series. Their relationship represents stability, something rare in the Yellowstone universe. And this is why I think their story will not just be about romance, but about building a life together in a place that demands strength and commitment every single day. We might even see them facing new responsibilities, possibly even starting a family, which would add a deeper emotional connection to everything happening around them. Now, beyond these familiar faces, the biggest question has been, who else is joining the cast? And this is where the speculation becomes incredibly exciting. There have been strong hints that a major star could take on a leadership role within the ranch. Someone who brings authority, discipline, and a completely different energy compared to the characters we have seen before. If this turns out to be true, it could completely change the dynamic of the series. Because instead of a relaxed or familiar environment, we might see a much stricter system, where every worker is pushed to their limits. And honestly, this kind of character would make perfect sense. The 4-6's ranch is not just any ranch, it is one of the best. And a place like that needs someone who can maintain that level of excellence. Someone who does not tolerate mistakes easily, and who expects nothing less than perfection. This could create a very interesting contrast, especially for characters like Jimmy, who are still growing into their roles. Watching him try to prove himself under that kind of pressure could be one of the most intense parts of the series. At the same time, we should also expect to see a wide range of ranch workers, each with their own personalities, strengths, and struggles. Because what makes a story like this truly engaging is not just the main characters, but the entire environment. The friendships, the rivalries, the small conflicts that slowly build into bigger moments. All of these elements will play a huge role in shaping the overall experience. And if the trailer reveals are anything to go by, 6666 is putting a lot of focus on creating a cast that feels real. Not just characters but people who belong in that world. People who have something to prove, something to protect, or something to escape from. And when you bring all of these different motivations together in one place, the result is always something unpredictable. But of course characters, and in 6666, that journey might be filled with challenges that are far more intense than we expect. Now let's take things even further, because this is where the real intensity of 6666 begins to reveal itself. The journey that awaits these characters is not going to be easy, and if the trailer hints are anything to go by, we are looking at a story filled with constant pressure, unexpected challenges, and moments that could change everything in an instant. Because life at the 4-6's ranch is not just about skill. It is about survival, discipline, and proving your worth every single day. One of the most important aspects that the series is expected to explore is competition. And this is not just small rivalry. We are talking about serious competition in the world of horse breeding and selling. The 4-6's ranch has built a reputation over decades, and maintaining that level is not simple. There are always other ranches trying to rise, trying to take that top position, and this creates a constant sense of tension in the background. Every horse matters. Every deal matters. And sometimes even small misunderstandings can turn into serious problems. This kind of internal conflict adds another layer of depth to the story, making it feel even more realistic and unpredictable. And then, of course, there is the physical side of this life. Working at a ranch like 4-6's is not easy. It requires strength, endurance, and constant focus. One mistake while handling a horse, one moment of distraction, and things can go wrong very quickly. The trailer hints suggest that the series will not shy away from showing these dangers. And this is important, because it reminds us that this lifestyle, while beautiful, is also incredibly demanding and sometimes even dangerous. For characters like Jimmy, this means the journey is far from over. In fact, it might be just beginning. Because now, instead of learning the basics, he will be facing situations where he has to take responsibility, make decisions, and deal with the consequences. And that kind of growth always comes with risk. It is one thing to follow orders, but it is something completely different to lead, to protect, and to carry the weight of expectations. Another thing that could play a major role in the story is change. Because no matter how strong a tradition is, change is always coming. Whether it is new business strategies, new technologies, or even new people entering the ranch, these changes can create tension between those who want to protect the old ways and those who want to move forward. And this clash between tradition and progress is something that can create some of the most powerful moments in the series. And honestly, this is what makes 6666 feel so exciting. It is not just telling one story. It is building an entire world where every decision, every relationship, and every challenge matters. A world where things can go wrong at any moment, and where the characters have to constantly fight. But even with all these challenges, there is still one big question that remains: when will we finally get to see all of this unfold on screen? Now let's talk about the part everyone is waiting for. The trailer itself and what it actually reveals, because even though we are not getting a full detailed look yet, the small hints we have are already enough to build massive excitement. And honestly, if you pay close attention, the tone of the trailer tells us a lot more than it seems at first. The first thing that stands out immediately is the atmosphere. From the very beginning, There is a strong sense of calm mixed with tension. Wide open land, endless fields, and that quiet feeling of isolation. But at the same time, you can feel that something intense is always just beneath the surface. This is not a peaceful story, even if it looks like one. It is a world where every day brings a new challenge, and the trailer does a great job of hinting at that without revealing too much. Another important detail is how much focus is placed on the work itself. This is something very different compared to what we usually see. The trailer seems to emphasize the process, the discipline, the routine, and the effort that goes into maintaining a place like the 4-6's ranch. And this is exactly what makes it feel real. It is not trying to rush into drama. Instead, it slowly builds a foundation, showing us that every intense moment we will see later is earned through hard work and dedication. At the same time, there are small glimpses of conflict that you can easily miss if you are not paying attention. Short moments that suggest disagreements, pressure, and maybe even danger. And this is where the suspense really starts to build. Because the trailer is not giving us answers, it is giving us questions. What went wrong? Who is under pressure? And what kind of decisions will these characters have to make when things start? Now let's talk about the cast presence in the trailer, because even brief appearances can tell us a lot. The way certain characters are shown, the expressions on their faces, the way they carry themselves, all of this gives us clues about their roles. Some feel confident and in control, while others seem like they are still trying to find their place. And this contrast is very important, because it sets up the dynamics we are going to see throughout the series. There is also a noticeable shift in tone when it comes to leadership. The trailer hints at a more structured and possibly stricter environment compared to what we are used to. This suggests that whoever is in charge of the ranch will play a very strong role in shaping the story. Someone who demands results, who does not accept weakness easily, and who pushes everyone to their limits. And honestly, this kind of presence can elevate the entire series, because it creates constant pressure on every character. Another thing worth mentioning is the emotional tone. Even though the trailer focuses heavily on work and environment, there are clear signs that personal stories will play a huge role. Moments of silence, looks between characters, and small emotional reactions all hint at deeper connections and struggles. This means we are not just getting a story about a ranch, we are getting a story about people trying to find their place, trying to move forward, and sometimes trying to deal with their past. And this balance between realism, tension, and emotion is what makes the trailer so effective. It does not try to overwhelm you with action or big reveals. Instead, it pulls you in slowly, making you curious, making you question, and most importantly, making you want more. But of course, even with all this excitement, there is still one final piece of the puzzle that everyone is thinking about. When will 6666 finally be released, and how long do we have to wait before we can experience all of this for ourselves? Now finally, let's talk about the question that every single fan has in mind. When will 6666 actually be released? And honestly, this is where things become a bit uncertain, but at the same time very interesting. Because even though we do not have an official release date yet, the information we do have gives us a pretty strong idea of what to expect. First of all, we need to look at the bigger picture. The Yellowstone universe is expanding, but it is also moving toward a very important timeline. With multiple spin-offs, ongoing projects, and long-term plans, everything needs to be carefully scheduled. And this is exactly why 6666 is taking its time. This is not a rushed project. It is something that needs to be done right, especially because it represents a real place with a real legacy behind it. Another very important factor is production itself. Unlike many other series, 6666 has a huge advantage. The ranch is real. This means there is no need to build massive sets or create artificial environments. Everything is already there. However, this also comes with its own challenges. Filming in a real working ranch environment requires coordination, planning, and a lot of attention to detail. Because at the end of the day, the goal is not just to create a show. It is to capture reality in the most authentic way possible. Now, based on the current pace of announcements and the early trailer hints, it seems very likely that filming could either begin soon or might already be in early stages. And if we consider how long production and post-production usually take for a series of this scale, a realistic release window would be somewhere around late 2026 or possibly 2027. This might feel like a long wait, but honestly it could be worth it. Because a story like this needs time to develop properly. At the same time, there is also a strategic side to this release. The creators will want to position 6666 in a way that keeps the audience engaged with the Yellowstone universe. This means choosing a release time that builds excitement, connects with other projects, and keeps the momentum going. And because of this, the final release date will not just depend on production, it will also depend on timing. But one thing is very clear. Whenever 6666 arrives, it is going to bring something completely different to the table. A story that focuses more on authenticity, more on character growth, and more on the true essence of ranch life. It is not just about power struggles or dramatic twists. It is about building something real, something meaningful, and something that stays with you even after the episode ends.